Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Earwax. It's Colin, and today we're going over the brand new album by Within Destruction, ANIMETAL. So this is the sixth full-length LP from Slovenian metal outfit Within Destruction, and they are continuing the trend they've done on their last couple of projects, where they're moving away from their deathcore roots and into more of a metalcore, popcore, synthcore kind of direction. And, before we get into the music itself, let me just say I do genuinely enjoy this new kind of, not new, but like this direction they've been going the last few releases. And I think they do it very well. That being said, I do have some issues with the album, specifically about the theme, the lyrical content, the physical release, and a few other things here and there. But before we get into all of that, if you guys can please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. If you've listened to this album, if you haven't, go check it out. All of that stuff really helps out the channel a lot. So without further ado, let's talk about the physical release. So first and foremost, this came in a full week after the release. I know that Sumerian Records, that puts them out, is a smaller label, but still, there's plenty of small labels out there that can get stuff out within, pretty close to the actual release date. And having this come out a full week after definitely takes some points off. That being said, I do like the packaging of this a lot. It did come with its own outer sleeve, which I always love. That means I don't have to mess with the hype sticker. Also, I like the artwork a lot. Clearly, they're leaning into the anime theme, at least as far as like the aesthetics of the cover goes. It is kind of a hodgepodge of different just like anime styles. You've got like some mecha stuff up there. You've got what looks more like kind of like fighting stuff down here. You've got like a little creature, which could be, an allusion to any number of things. You've got some, some cyberpunk stuff going on over here, some more like demonic stuff. And then on the back, it's pretty much just like straight mech. Clearly, if you guys can't tell by the litany of things behind me, I am a fan of anime. I watch a lot of anime and just Japanese stuff in general. So, I do appreciate anyone that's kind of leaning into that aesthetic. So let's go ahead and open up the inside and we can kind of take a look at the rest of it. So, again, with the gatefold here, you've got an inside that looks like kind of manga panels. It's I think it's done really well, and clearly whoever designed the artwork definitely has a love of anime and manga. It does come with this pretty sweet booklet as well. And yeah, so I like this booklet a lot. It's kind of got pages, and it's the lyric sheet, but it's done in kind of speech bubbles, and then you've got like some more of the artwork kind of scattered throughout. So I gotta say, as far as like the artwork and the packaging goes, they really knocked it out of the park with this one. They definitely leaned into the theme. So you got some lyrics for Cybergirl here, which are one of the few that like kind of actually lean into the anime theme a little bit. But yeah, I think overall, like, I'm pretty pleased with these aspects of it. But that being said, I do have a couple issues, and we'll get into those in a sec. But first, let's talk about the actual record. So I do like the pressing they did with this. They're kind of sticking with like the color themes they have throughout the album, which is the reds and the blacks and the blues and the whites. And it is a really cool pressing. I mean, you've got like the kind of splatter burst with the red and the blue, and then like the black and white streaks kind of throughout it. So overall, I will say, like, I'm pretty pleased with the actual packaging and the artwork. Now, the sound quality, on the other hand, is not great, unfortunately. It's not super clear. It's not super crisp. There's some pops at a couple points. And yeah, overall, like, it's just got a really low volume, too. Like, I hate having to turn my speakers up louder than I should to be able to actually hear the album. And so, like, the audio quality on this is definitely lacking. So that's my biggest issue with the actual physical release. As far as the music goes, I'll get into the track by track breakdown in a second here, but my biggest complaint is there's like a pretty significant lack of actual anime references throughout the lyricism on this album. I don't get into lyrics all that often with my reviews, and I'm not going to go like in depth with each song. And there's a couple ones, like I said, Cybergirl definitely has some like heavy cyberpunk themes. There's a couple other songs that are pretty just like broad general themes that you would find in most anime, but then they've got songs that like feel like they should be directly referencing a specific anime, or they should at least be like tying in themes of the anime that the title is clearly referencing, and they just don't. So as a fan of this type of music, which is like metalcore, synthcore, I think it's a good album, but it definitely loses some points for me as an anime fan for like calling the album ANIMETAL and then not actually leaning super hard into anime with your lyrics. Like it's just, I mean, again, there's a couple themes here and there, and they have some samples, and like I think they gave it their best effort. But like, if you're going to call an album ANIMETAL and you're going to have this album cover, I want every single song on this album to just be dripping with references and lore and Easter eggs. And like, you can't cater to the weeb community like myself and then not deliver. And so that's a pretty big issue I have with the album overall. But with that out of the way, let's talk about the songs themselves. So the album starts off with the title track ANIMETAL, and this is a fun song. So it's a pretty straightforward like metalcore song. There's some, you know, blast beats thrown out in here and there. There's some chugging. There's some like pounding guitars. There's some synth work, mix of clean and harsh vocals. They do pretty well. There's a section in the middle where they're literally just chanting like ANIMETAL, 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 go. And so they do like lean into that a little bit. There's a couple like anime style vocal samples here. So this is a song that at least like does kind of deliver on the theme pretty well. And I hope so, considering it's the title track. It's a fun song. It's not like groundbreaking, especially in this genre, but I did enjoy listening to it a lot. And it's a super fun time if you want to put something on to just kind of like dance around to in this sort of like genre. And then after that, we get into Demon Child. And Demon Child is probably my biggest issue when it comes to not delivering on an anime reference, because if you are familiar with one of the most famous anime of all time, which is One Piece, Demon Child is the name given to one of the main characters, Nico Robin, and there are 0 Nico Robin or One Piece references throughout this song, and that bothers me. But that aside, it actually is a really good song. It's got a pretty heavy intro, some really like kind of crunchy, like, you know, pounding guitars. The drums fill in really, really well here. There's some like 80s club inspired synths going on. Chorus is super catchy. The drums, like, again, are not super complex, but they do like move the song along pretty well. And it's a fun, catchy song and a good kind of follow up to the title track. After that is Kanashibari, which is probably one of the heaviest songs on the album, at least like in the intro. Some really like crushing, like just heavy guitar work. The bass comes in super well here. The screams are really, really good. It's a good straight up like metalcore song that shows snippets of like their deathcore roots, but nothing too crazy. Even like the clean vocals here feel a little bit darker and a little bit more kind of mysterious. It does lean into like some industrial vibes at a certain point, or like certain points throughout the song, but I don't hate that. They'll do that a couple other times throughout the album. But right at the end of this song, there's some like loud, noticeable pops on the record, at least on my copy. And that definitely took away from the experience a little bit. It does kind of lead a little well into the next song of Bitter Embrace, because it starts with like the super really glitchy kind of like breakbeat sort of intro, which again, it leans kind of more into the industrial, almost like sort of nu metal vibes right in the beginning, with that kind of like standard nu metal like whisper singing. But it does then kind of settle into a bit more of a straightforward metalcore verse. The chorus, though, kind of falls back into the nu metal leanings. They get like some light Linkin Park vibes, at least some of like their later stuff on certain parts of this song. When it does pick up, though, it has some of the more like technical drum parts I've seen on the album so far, with some more like complex fills and intricate time signatures. And then it's got a nice little kind of like atmospheric solo at the end. But yeah, nothing like too crazy, but I think they do flirt around with this genre fairly well. After that is Fate Separate. And maybe this is supposed to be a reference to the Fate series. I don't know. The lyrics certainly don't, push me in that direction. They're pretty just like generic lyrics. But I mean, I guess they could be interpreted because the Fate series has a lot of different themes in it. So, I mean, I guess it's a stretch to say that they're kind of related. But yeah, this is a good song. It really is. Like, again, my issues with lyrical content aside, it's a pretty straightforward standard metalcore track. It's got some of the heavier parts on the album. It's got a great breakdown. The instrumentation is done well. The vocals are done well. But again, I have such a disappointment with like being let down on some of like the stronger anime themes that I was expecting on the album. But then we get into Cybergirl, and again, this song probably is one of the most straightforward like reference heavy songs that I've heard. Not anything in particular, but just a lot of like generic cyberpunk references scattered throughout. It's a very industrial song. There's a lot of like electro driven parts. There's some glitchy parts. The drums do work really well here as well. The vocals are very catchy and melodic. It's borderline just like a straight up synthcore song. And yeah, it's fun. It's a good song. I do like it, and it is one of the few that actually delivers on the title of the song. So I got to give it extra points for that. After that is Incomplete, which is a slower kind of like popcore ballad. I do like this. Even like the heavier parts, they do kind of really complement the slower, more melodic, poppy parts of the song, and it's nice to kind of hear them go that direction as opposed to the other way, which is what the majority of the album's been, where it's been fairly straightforward, like heavy metalcore with like the melodic choruses kind of complementing the breakdowns and heavier parts. So to see that flipped, I think they did it very, very well. After that is Stay Forever, which is also pretty synth heavy, at least in the beginning. It's, kind of pushing forward the metalcore throughout this song. Not the most unique or like original track on the album, but it does fit very well. That's almost like a trance buildup into like a metalcore bleh, into like a full on like breakdown, and then like a 80s inspired sort of like guitar solo. So they're kind of hitting all the themes that they've touched up until this point in one song. And then you've got Automaton, which might be the heaviest song on the album. I think this does kind of call back to their deathcore roots a little bit. And while I think they were a very good deathcore band, like I think that was a genre that did very well. Clearly, at this point in their career, they're transitioned into a full-blown metalcore band, and I think they do it very well as well. So I think, I'm happy to see wherever they decide to go after this, if they stick with this style, if they change it up again. They're clearly very talented guys, and I think that they're like coming together really well on this album. Then we get into Hide and Sick, which is probably my least favorite track name on the album. I just think it's kind of a dumb name, but it actually is a really good song. It's got this borderline glitch hop intro before going into more of just kind of the standard stuff that we've gotten up until this point. Nothing too crazy. I will say it does have the only other like legitimate anime sample outside of the intro. I can't put my finger on what it's from, but I know I recognize it. So it gets credit for that. But otherwise, it's a not a super exciting song compared to like the rest of the album. Like, it's good. I think it's very well done. It's just not like crazy different than what we've already gotten up until this point. After that is Torment, which is like borderline hip hop in the beginning, but then it gets into more of like kind of a melodic driven metalcore bass. Again, nothing like super standout on this track. It does have a pretty heavy breakdown in it with some like legitimate chugs, and I do like that. It's solid. I mean, again, the singing is clean. The screams are well done. They're not like too high or too low. It's not overproduced. The levels are mixed well, and it's a good song. It's just not like absolutely amazing, and I feel like there's a couple songs on this album that have just done this style better. So I don't know how much this one needed to be here. And then we close out with A Love That Slowly Died, and this starts off with just a straight up like trap beat. I mean, is trapcore a thing? I guess so, maybe. It does eventually hit with like some heavier parts, and it's very like melodic and synth driven, but it's still got that kind of like trap, almost hip hop like bass to it. And yeah, it's an interesting way to close out the album. Maybe wouldn't have been my choice just because it is fairly different than everything else that's come before it, but it's not bad. It's not a terrible way to close out. So overall, like from the music side, I did enjoy this album. I think it's a good, solid metalcore album. I think if you're into the more like gimmicky pop side of metalcore, you will enjoy this. As a vinyl collector, I love the packaging. I wish the sound quality on the pressing was better. It's probably one of the lowest quality pressings I've gotten in a long time. And then just as an anime fan, I'm pretty disappointed by just the lack of like commitment to that theme on this album. I mean, outside of the artwork and a couple of songs here and there, like they really didn't go in that direction. And if you're going to call your album ANIMETAL, you kind of have to. Like, you have to deliver on that. So if I was going just off the music alone, I probably would have given this like a high B. But because it came a week late and the pressing quality was low and it did not deliver on the anime references, I'm going to go with a C+ for this one. So that's going to be it for me, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments if you've checked this album out. If you haven't, go listen to it. And as always, I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.